Morning.
How are you doing? Woman of freedom like myself.
Well, yes, I'm being a bit rock star because I've got a rash.
I like it.
I've got a rash around my eyes. And as my partner in crime in Peaceful Cacophony band said, oh, you haven't got pink eye, have you? I was like, no, David, I don't have pink eye, okay? It's a little bit of eczema.
Yeah.
So the doctor said, you're not allowed to wear any makeup, right? And I'm like, I'm being interviewed. I need to wear makeup.
You've got to have your lippy on.
I've got my lippy on. I just haven't got anything on my eye.
Well, that's all right. You look cool, girl. You look cool. You look amazing.
Thank you.
So welcome to the Angela Lee Show. It's quite mad here, Denise, because I'm myself. We're free to be ourselves this morning. We have the amazing Denise Wines joining me this morning. We're talking about how we can free ourselves from brainwashing, from mind control. And oh my God, my hair, couldn't even cut your hair. Had to wear a hat to go to church. Me, I'll definitely go to hell with this hair.
Couldn't have boyfriends. My nail varnish.
Yeah. And I've got nail varnish as well. My cleavage, which is why I'm showing it. Woo! Woo!
Hello. Give us some cleavage. We got synergy.
You wear tops to show your cleavage, right? Had to dress like it. No, I can see your cleavage.
I'm just making sure it's on display, darling.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello, boys.
And so, couldn't wear cleavage, couldn't have boyfriends, couldn't have friends of the opposite sex, because if I did, I'm a Jezebel or I'm a prostitute.
Oh,
that's what I was called. Denise.
Exactly. Oh God, that really it does actually affect you. I find it difficult to make friends of males without there being some other thing going on.
I know it's Sunday, but I'm keeping it real. Forgive me, everyone.
Yes, let's be blasphemous on a Sunday.
It's a Sunday, yeah. We've got to keep it.
No more church for me. Well, people probably won't know this about the Jehovah's Witnesses, but if you leave under a cloud, i.e. you've done something naughty, you get disfellowshipped, which is a bit like being excommunicated in the Catholic Church. But they actually go further than the Catholic Church, because your parents or anybody that's still in the cult, which is what I call it, they're not allowed to speak to you or socialise with you after you've left, right? So it's basically you choose your freedom over and above your own family, your own flesh and blood. And that's the decision that I had to make 25 odd years ago. I hardly have any contact to my mother in all that time now. That's not something that anyone knows really when the witnesses come knocking at the door. But luckily, they're not knocking on doors at the moment because of lockdown.
Because of COVID. Hey, so that means they're not going to enter the kingdom of God, isn't it? It's 144,000 going up there, isn't it? So how are they going to do that then?
Oh, don't
if they're not knocking doors
on that. Oh, it's all about the rank and file are supposed to stay here, and then just the chosen 144,000 go to heaven to rule with Jesus. That's their belief, right? And so that means basically we're stuck down here. And if you go along with their beliefs and you're married and you're not really that happily married,
good Lord,
there's no heaven for you. You're not good enough to go up there. Well, that's not allowed in the witnesses either. They call it heavy petting, right?
Yeah,
heavy petting. What an old-fashioned term. And we weren't allowed to do that either. We had to have chaperones. Can you imagine? So you're always supposed to go out in groups and never be alone with a guy. But of course, what we used to do is we lived in Crawley at the time, near the airport, Gatwick, and then we would go down to Brighton with once we got cars, we were able to drive down to Brighton and sit in the car and have a bit of a steamy kiss and things like that. But we'd go in a group so that the parents wouldn't know, and then we'd all separate off and kiss our boyfriend.
That is
At
something.
32, I was doing things that you would normally do when you're in your teens.
In your teens, yeah, you find yourself living your teen life, and people look at you as abnormal because people have said you're supposed to have reached your peak at a certain age, and if you're reaching your peak in your late in your late ages, people look at you as if there's something wrong with you.
I know.
We haven't lived.
That's right, because they in fact, we're coming back to the music. That's what they might think. What's Denise doing, being a rock musician in her sort of mid to late 50s? And I'm like, well, because I missed a lot of opportunities,
That's right.
I did actually start a good 15 years ago with the music when I was in London, and I was working in the music industry, and I met lots of singer-songwriters and learned how to co-write and went to gigs and showcases and award ceremonies. It was great fun, and I learnt how to really put song together and what was needed, and went in the studio and recorded a few songs which you played. Don't Pass It On, that was done in a professional studio, and that was about 15 years ago, that song. But yes, I mean, it's just a case of self-discovery, and I've still got some angry songs in my repertoire. The ones I'm writing even now, I'm still writing some angry or rebellious songs, I'd like to say, about self-empowerment and what else, triumphant feelings of becoming a free spirit, and so you will find that as a theme in the songs I'm writing at the moment too, and I love it. It makes me feel great when I'm singing. I can really sing
sense of freedom. And some of your songs, I know we can talk about some of your back songs, particularly that song Blame. Talk to us about that.
I'm redoing that for the current album with Pitbull Cacophony. So Blame's going to be a bit of a screamer. I originally was basing it on Evanescence because they were coming up, when they wrote their first hit. And I wanted it to be like a really, not metal, but really kind of blame. And the reason I was that angry was because my so-called, perfect Christian parents had actually denied giving us the money that our grandfather promised us in the will. And so there was a lot of anger there. I just didn't know what to do with myself. I suppose that was rage, really, a bit more than anger. But I've worked through that over the years. Obviously, I've written a book. I haven't put that in the book. I don't want to be vitriolic in the book, but I'm telling you now because, of the subject that we're talking about. But, to be honest, writing music is just as healing as writing a book. And I've done both things. So I've worked it through. I've finally worked most of that through. There's always going to be something to work on, obviously.
Definitely, I've written a couple of books. I've written a couple of books, and I'm writing a few more books. Because it's my way of venting. Because they tried to silence me by their their psychological games. And so I vent it out by my book because everyone's going to read it anyway, and my shows. Because you can't silence me. This is why I do my shows.
Brilliant. I love it.
And I started a YouTube channel, so everyone's going to hear it now.
Yes.
So you can't silence me. You can't silence me. And it's a control. It's a passive aggression, isn't it? Passive aggression. Which is an emotional abusive tactic that they use. And they say, okay, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you. And they do that by their passive aggressive behaviour.
Yes, right. I think that especially even women in our society are taught or encouraged to be passive aggressive anyway, because women are a bit scary, when they're empowered and they come into their own and they tell it how it is, aren't they? And this has always been the case down through the centuries, the decades. But this is even more of a challenge, as you and I have had not only societal culture to deal with, but we've had an even bigger dose of the patriarchy, and just being silenced. And as you say, passive aggression is feels like the only option when you're in it, because you're not allowed to speak out. But oh yes, we're doing it now. My book, by the way, is called Rising from the Ashes of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Excellent.
So that's
the
phoenix, the phoenix.
Oh yes, that's my logo for my business. And so when is that book out?
Oh no, I published that 2 years ago actually. So
let's get a copy. Is it on Amazon?
It is. It's actually published through lulu.com.
Okay.
So Rising from the Ashes of Jehovah's Witnesses is my author alias is actually Isis All Things. So you don't look for Denise Wise on there. But
okay. If you just put it on the chat room.
I will.
Yeah, yes. Excellent. We can get that. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And so we spoke on many shows, and I know Dawn Crystal's watching at the moment, and we spoke on many shows in terms of the importance of venting your anger. It's very important, because if you repress your anger, it's going to lead to mental illness. It leads to depression if you repress that. And so blame for you was that opportunity for you to vent that out. Yeah.
That's right, yeah, because I mean, basically the words, well, when you listen to it now, you've heard that, you'll hear blame, shame, you say that you love me, but obviously you don't really care. And then there's this anger's brewing, your father's watching you, i.e., like you said earlier about being a hypocrite, your father's watching you up there, they've been saying that to me all my life, but actually he's doing the same to them.
And so Spare Me, tell me more about Spare Me.
Okay, all right, I'm going to reveal all. So written about my mother, unfortunately, walking away from the witnesses. So there's some of the lyrics in there are like, spare me, from your attitude. And it's a platitude, and so they trot out all these verses and quote scripture at you, but as we've just been saying, I don't need to be told what to do anymore. I'm using my own gut instincts and my own sense of what's right and wrong now. And I would like to say I think I'm living just as good a life as I was before, but more colourful. And the thing about grace is that you're living in grace. So, if you tap into your instinct and your compassion and kindness as a human being, then you're going to be living in grace. And surely, that's the whole point of that humans should be aiming for, living in a way that considers other people as well as yourself.
Absolutely.
Once you start getting away from the mind control, you understand that there's so much contradiction. The reason that they use these tactics is guilt and fear. Guilt of being a sinner, right? There's nothing you can do, because basically some woman at the beginning of all time ate an apple, gave it to her husband, and was cursed, and then all women were cursed as a result of that. So there's no chance of you ever being a grace-given human being without any guilt, because you're a sinner, right? Does that make any sense, really? And another controversial subject I'm going to raise, because it's in the end of my book, is paedophilia. Because, I know that it's obviously rife in all organisations and religions, because that's just human nature. But the witnesses have the audacity to use an old scripture in Deuteronomy that says that you can't convict another person of sin unless you've got a witness, or two witnesses, actually. Because in those days, of course, they didn't have forensics. So they couldn't just, stone someone to death on the word of one person. I mean, we're talking about centuries ago, all right? But they're using this old archaic scripture from the Old Testament to say that if a child comes to the parents, or even goes to the elders in the congregation and says, I've been abused by somebody, within the organisation, they won't actually go to the police or the authorities unless there's two witnesses at least.
You're joking.
And that's the scripture that makes them different from even from the Catholic Church. That, you know, they make you feel guilty. As parents, you're strongly discouraged from going directly to the police yourself, because they want to deal with it all behind closed doors, like you would have a confession in the Catholic Church, where only the priest gets to hear. He makes a decision. And, you know, even the police can't grill a priest because he's under oath not to tell anybody, right?
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. They use those same laws that the Catholic Church can use for their elders who are not qualified. They haven't even gone through a program of learning like the Christian clergy have. They're just communal garden people with no psychological training, and they're interviewing people who've been abused with no social training whatsoever. High level court cases going on around the world with Jehovah's Witnesses being taken to court either as individuals, elders that have been abusers, or as an organisation for covertly covering up evidence and not giving it to the court when it's being demanded. There's a massive case in Montana, Canada, that's actually taken years because the Witnesses organisation keeps fighting back with their team of fierce lawyers, and they, you know, they keep withholding information that's needed by the courts. So they're in contempt of the court, and they've just been pulled up by the judge, and he's spat a load of vitriol at the organisation, you know, just saying it's absolutely shameful, you know, the way that this organisation called JW.org, the way they behave, and the victim isn't considered at all. It's all about preserving their good name in the public, which is now being dragged into the public arena, high profile, lots of movies being made about, and there are lots of people writing books like me. So it's great, you know. I'm part of a guy, Scott Homan, who's a young ex-Jehovah's Witness. He's a movie maker, and he's just had one of his movies actually just been accepted by Netflix in America to actually put this series of musicians and people who've come away from the Witnesses who are in media. And it's just telling the story about how rock music, helped this group of witnesses to then find their freedom from brainwashing, because you know, music is an opener. It does open your mind and heart and help you to express yourself. Absolutely. And so he's interviewed me a couple of years ago, but he's now thinking about including my story about the music, you know, in one of his future episodes, because you know, being with Netflix, he's now got the funding to start doing international stuff as well. So I'm really excited about that. So watch this space. Me to sing in a competition for charity next June in Norfolk. So I'll put details of that up, you know, so people can buy tickets to come to the show.
I need to get there and rock myself away with you.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Okay, and so I was rather intrigued by another song of yours, Skeleton Way, and I know that you mentioned that the song was actually about someone else having a mental breakdown, but you can actually share that experience. I know that I can share that experience as well.
Yes. It's a fun song, and you know, you wouldn't know from listening to it what it was about particularly, but it's hidden a little bit in the lyrics where it says, you know, the skeleton in the cupboard is really about when you go for therapy and all the skeletons come out of the cupboard and you're laid bare, you know. So that it is about recovery, really, and it's not. That wasn't to do with religion at all. That particular experience I was writing about is just a general, whatever it is that's driven you to that point, you know, of having a break. But in my kind of more spiritual side, I'd say that breakdowns can be described as breakthrough, and
Absolutely.
you know, that having a mental breakdown isn't something to be ashamed of. It's actually a point where you start to really ask yourself deeper questions about what's the point of life, what's the meaning, what am I doing here, you know, how am I leading my life, and I think it's a fun way of exploring that, really, you know. Just
absolutely. I love that. Yeah, breakdown is actually a breakthrough, and because it was through my breakdown in terms of having a brain tumor that was like a light bulb moment where I had to make a decision: my marriage or my tumor, and I chose my health.
Right.
Absolutely. So yes, absolutely.
Well, the body never lies, you know, and I would say that going right back to before I left the witnesses and my husband, that my body was not lying, in the sense that I was getting sick, having a virus every month or so, and I just the doctors, and I said to him, do you think it's psychosomatic? And because there's nothing wrong, I lead a really healthy lifestyle up in the mountains, you know. And he said, well, if you want to go for therapy, I can put you forward. So I said, all right. And as a witness, they don't really like people going for psychotherapy. But I was obviously, you know, a bit of a rebel already. I liked psychotherapy. I'd already been reading, you know, lots of psychotherapy at that point. And so I chose my therapist, and luckily it was quite a holistic, properly qualified psychotherapist, but she understood what she was dealing with about the cult thing, and we never talked about religion for 2 years. But my body, you know, like you, I had a epiphany, and you know, everything got lifted off me like a massive weight when I finally saw the light and left. And I became a different person, you know, my eyes were bluer, and people remarked on it, and I'm like, it's because of the burden has just been suddenly
lifted.
And my body can respond to that now. And
absolutely.
Be healthy. And you know, we've got the internet now. Of course, the witnesses don't like their followers going on the internet to research anything. You're not allowed to read any literature outside of the witness literature. Got anything against the witnesses, you're not allowed. You're absolutely banned from reading that, and it's called apostate literature, which with my book would fall into that category. It doesn't matter how true it is, if you're just reading facts, you know, that are recorded. It's still apostate literature because it's speaking out against what they believe in.
That's just a whole other nonsense, because what that is really, they're trying to contain and control what you know, the information that you actually digest. That's what it's all about, control.
That's right. Oh, I am absolutely the black sheep of the family.
Me too.
But my sister and my brother have joined me too. We left within a few years of each other, which is great, you know, because we've now got each other to rely on for a bit of emotional support.
Because God, you're going to need it. And so Sun God was one of your first songs that you wrote.
Literally one of the first. I think I wrote 4 songs when I was first starting out over 15 years. Sun God was literally just my naive, innocent self, never having had a one-night stand before. And, you know, just kind of meeting this guy at a party who, you know, we obviously got on really well. He came back, and I just thought, wow, this is fantastic. What an amazing experience. And then, of course, he never called me again, and I'd never experienced that. I didn't know what a one-night stand really was, and I hadn't understood it. You know, it means one night. That's it. He's not going to contact you anymore, because that's all it was, you know. And for me, obviously, coming from the background that you and I have had, it's so completely the opposite end of the spectrum, isn't it? To have an experience just for the sake of the experience. And I wised up a bit. Obviously, I'm not saying it was my last one night stand, but I would say that I now understand a lot more about making choices the right choices for me, depending on where I am in my life.
Yeah.
You know? And you know, I can understand also the spiritual aspect of not just treating it like a casual thing. And you know, there is a sacred aspect to union for me, definitely now, where I've had to go through that whole metamorphosis from just wanting to do everything I wasn't allowed to do all those years and going a bit mad.
As you do, yes. It's normal.
Coming full circle and realising, you know, that I have to take my own emotional health into consideration and not be quite so cavalier about everything as I used to be. I don't know if you believe in star signs, but I'm a Sagittarius, so
I'm a Capricorn, the goat.
Okay, Sagittarius are known as party animals, and they do like to hop around, and they're adventurers, and you know, and I just really discovered who I was a lot. I had a lot of Sagittarian friends, funnily enough, when I first came out for the Witnesses and moved to Sevenoaks, and I just kept bumping into women and male Sagittarians, and they just showed me such a good time. They're so fun. So, you know, I was like, wow, is this really part of me? It's amazing. You know, I just got to know myself so well over a decade or two.
That's really amazing. So I'm hoping that everyone's enjoying the show. This is the Angela Lee Show, and we're actually talking with the amazing Denise Wise about the importance of deprogramming oneself. We've shared a couple of our personal experiences about our personal journey, and I'm hoping that you've found it quite useful for you if you are experiencing something quite similar. We've kept it quite raw here. Another song that I'd like to talk about, the new way. And so after freeing yourself, the new way, I think it was a time when you actually met up with your father after 19 years.
That's right. And it wasn't until we were married and starting to question everything in the Witnesses that we realised that, look, you know, we've got the right to find our father. And my sister was the first one to try and find. We didn't even know where he lived, you know. And so we found him, and we met him when my daughter was just 1 year old, so that's 29 years ago. He was delighted, and he'd been waiting for us to contact him. And we were lucky because, you know, we've had a fantastic opportunity to get to know him and his new family, who, you know, he's been married for over 45 years to his wife. And we've got 2 half brothers from that side. And that means that, you know, we've had a family to go to when we left the Witnesses, which is lucky in comparison to a lot of other people who've left. So we just developed a relationship with him for a few years before we left the Witnesses, and they welcomed us, you know, with open arms, and we've always been able to gather together as a family on the Wise side. That's where my name Denise Wise comes from. Okay, that's my birth father's surname. And it's just amazing, you know, to be able to do that, and we're really, really lucky, you know, that we've had that support from them. And none of them are Christian or anything. My dad's an atheist, but he's just been, you know, shocked at finding out all of this information about us that he knew nothing about, of course. And also us hearing, you know, the other side of the story.
Yeah, and it is a cult, because like some people might be listening and they're thinking, well, you know, I go to a normal church, whether it's Pentecostal, evangelical, or a religious setting, whether, you know, it's, you know, any other religion, and it's not a cult. But it's a cult when they try to control you.
Peaceful Cacophony is the actual band name.
Okay.
And we don't have a song by that title as yet.
Oh, okay.
The reason we called the band that is because the tagline is because life is a contradiction in terms, right? So you can be all things. You can be peaceful sometimes, and you can have cacophony going on in any area. Like it means chaos, doesn't it? But when it comes to music, I always say, it's a bit like walking into the jungle in Costa Rica, where I was for some months, and you just hear all the different sounds of the jungle and the birds, many different bird calls.
Yeah.
But it sounds beautiful somehow. It doesn't jar. So sometimes chaos can be great, and it can shake you up and make you
definitely.
So that, and also the thing is, I'm working with David Donnelly. He's my bandmate and musician, professional rock musician with many years' experience. And I'm so lucky to have met him a year ago in Norwich, and we just had that lockdown malaise. What are we going to do with our time? Because there were lots of things he couldn't do anymore as a musician. So we started writing, and we've written 12 songs in the last year.
Amazing.
And so we're so opposites in lots of ways that we thought, Peaceful Cacophony was a reflection really of the two of us, being in contradiction but also being in highly creative mode. And it just kicked off in a really good way. So
excellent. Okay, we're going to play that song, and then we're going to talk about how you're enjoying your freedom after this one.
Lovely.
And so, Denise Wise, how are you enjoying your freedom now? And I know that you talked about a couple of projects that you're working on. And so, yeah, let us know. How are you enjoying your freedom?
Oh, it's been a really fantastic couple of, well, it's nearly 3 decades now. So plenty of time to explore the world. And say I've done the book. And then I got really into the music 15 years ago and did some songs, but the book took over. And I've only just started to come back again to the music. So catching up for lost time there. And that's what I'm focusing on. That's my main driver at the moment. And we've got 3 of the 12 songs mastered. So we've got 2 of them on Bandcamp, and that's, you know, the link I've just put in the chat is our band name. So it's Peaceful Cacophony .bandcamp.com, and that's where, you know, thousands of artists are self-promoting or, you know, self-publishing now. And so we've got the songs on there. They're only £1.11 or something, you know, because I've got this thing about 111 or 222 because I'm into numerology, right? So they're cheap to buy, or you can subscribe and get the EP and all the singles that come out as a result. That's only £5. And we just we've done Spare Me, which is that one you played, and it's our favourite still. Spare Me from Your Attitude. And then we've got Sun God on there, and we're releasing Set Me Free September, which we've done 2 videos. We went up to the beach at last. We finally had some good weather the other week, and we went up there for the sunset, and we just got there in the nick of time. We were racing along in David Donnelly's convertible with the sun just setting. We were like, oh, we're going to get there in time. We found, you know, it was filmed by my friend. Running Zombies is his production company and band, and he basically just set up really quickly and got loads of shots of us with the sand dunes in the sun setting behind us, and doing the singing, and it was brilliant. They've come out really well. So he's making the video now, and we've got Set Me Free video ready to launch with the single in September. So that's 3 of the 12 tracks. So we're going to be releasing those over the next year, I guess.
Brilliant. Well done to you. You know, Denise, it's just been such a pleasure. I feel your energy. It's electrifying. And thank you so much for sharing your story and your music and your love on the show today, on the Angela Show. It's just been absolutely amazing. You are a phenomenal woman. And I just want to encourage you again, just put all your links on the thread, you know, on the social media thread for me. And I'm sure we're going to chat later on. And so thank the listeners. And so listeners, do get the book. And the book is called, Denise?
It's Rising from the Ashes of Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's on lulu.com.
Excellent. And so, many blessings to you, Denise, and thank you for joining me on the show. And I'll speak to you soon. And thank you.
You're an inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it very much.
Okay, and so I'm hoping that bye, darling. Hope you've enjoyed that amazing interview with Denise Wise.